Hello, everybody. Here we are, 5.1 multiplying polynomials. There's a few little notes before we start. So the notes that you can multiply polynomials using algebra tiles or with the help of the distributive property, which is that, A times B plus C is the same as A times B plus A times C, so that you can distribute this A inside the brackets. Okay, so give me a second for that. And we'll start with these algebra tiles. In our textbook, we've been used to, I think, some other colors for our algebra tiles. And these ones, for me, feels counterintuitive. I think it's supposed to be helpful, a helpful visual. But in our textbook, the green is a positive x. That seems fine. Okay with that. These white ones are a negative 1. So these are all negative ones. This is a positive x. This is a positive x. And this red one, for me, infuriatingly, is a positive 1. For me, it doesn't make sense. That's the way it shows in our textbook. So that's what I'll do for these notes. And the way that you can use the algebra tiles to multiply polynomials. In this example, we have this polynomial multiplied by this polynomial right here. Oh, I want to use black. Right here is x, so there's 1x, subtract 3, 1, 2, 3 negatives, and this one at the side is 2x's plus 1. And the way that we solve this is by multiplying inside. You make a box that's the length of this one, and then as long as this one, and then we fill it in. Fill that in. And again, we make a box that's as long as this one by as long as this one, and then fill it in. These ones, we're going to have a negative x, or a negative 1 times a positive x. This would be negative, so we're going to make it as long as this tile on our left and as wide as the one on the top. This next one, again, the same, is as long as the one, or as tall as the one on the left and as wide as the one on the top. And again, like that. Down here, again, as long as our x, as wide as our negative 1. As long as our x, as wide as our negative 1. Like that. And now we have, this one is as long as our 1 and as wide as our x. And down here we have negatives times a positive. So they're going to be these little white squares like that. Okay, so now we've multiplied this. What does this all mean? Remember that if you have a positive and a negative of the same shape, those can cancel each other out. So this positive x can cancel out one of these negative x's. And we are left with, remember, our big squares are x squares. So we have, here, I'll do it down here, 2x squared. Let me do it in blue. We have 2x squared. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 negative x's, negative 5x. And we have 1, 2, 3, negative 3 of our 1's. So that's how you'd solve that using algebra tiles. We can also solve this using the distributive property. So we could also go x subtract 3. So this top polynomial multiplied by the side polynomial, 2x plus 1. And we can use a thing, I'm going to call it out right here, called FOIL. So what we can do first is multiply the first terms. So this term with this term, and x times a 2x. You can think about it as multiplying the coefficient, there's a little invisible 1 here, and the x's. And we'll remember from our last unit, when you have an x times an x, you can add the exponents. That equals x squared. So we can multiply the first terms. X times 2x is 2x squared. Then in our FOIL, we multiply the outside terms. So this x is on the outside and that 1 is on the outside. So that's plus 1x. Then the next part in our FOIL is the insides. This is the negative 3 inside and that 2x. So we have negative 6x. And then the last part is L is our last terms. So this negative 3 times this positive 1, negative 3. Now, just as we practiced in last class, we're going to combine like terms. This is a like term. This is a like term. They have the same variable and the same degree. So we can add those up. We have 2x squared. 1 plus negative 6x gives us negative 5x. Subtract 3. So there you go. Same answer, 2 different ways to do it. Let's practice down here using the distributive property. So let's do FOIL. So remember that's FOIL is first, outside, inside, last. That's what FOIL stands for. So let's do our first terms. And then let's do the outside terms, the x and the 8y. Then let's do the inside terms, and then let's do our last terms. So first, we have an x times an x. That's an x squared. Next, we have our outside terms, our x times our 8y. So plus 8xy. Next, we have our inside terms, our negative 3y and our x. So subtract 3xy. And we have our last terms, our negative 3y and our positive 8y. Negative 3 times positive 8 is going to be a negative 24y squared. And so now we can combine our like terms. Here we have an x squared and a y squared, not like terms. But here we have an xy and an xy. So these are like terms. We can combine these two. So now we have x squared. And I'm going to go, there we go. Positive 8 plus negative 3 is plus 5xy. And then subtract 24y squared. Okay, for our next one, FOIL isn't really going to work. We don't just have, first. We do have a kind of first and last, but we don't have outside, inside because we have 3 terms in our second polynomial. This is a binomial times a trinomial. So FOIL isn't going to work, but we can still use the distributive property. So we can still times our x by all 3 terms, and then multiply our 2 by all 3 terms, and then combine like terms and solve. So let's do it. First, we have x times 2x squared, which is going to give us 2x cubed. Next, we have an x times negative 3x, so negative 3x squared. And next, we have an x times a plus 1, so plus 1x, or just plus x. Now we're on to, let me maybe show this in a different color. Now we have our 2 times 2x squared, 2 times 3x, and 2 times 1. So plus 4x squared, 2 times negative 3x, negative 6x, and then 2 times 1 is plus 2. And then let's combine our like terms. We've got an x cubed. No other x cubes. We do have an x squared and an x squared. We do have an x and an x. And then we have just a 2. So no like term there. And let's combine them. We got 2x cubed. Negative 3x squared, subtract 6 more, plus 4x squared, there we go, is plus an x squared. Now, here we go. Positive 1 and a negative 6x gives us a negative 5x, and our positive 2 is at the end. Okay. Simplify. Our next one, we can FOIL the first ones. And I would like to distribute this one, our next part, inside, and then FOIL into the next one. So these will be a few steps. Let's solve our first one. So let's do this x times x3. So that's 3x squared. Next, we're going to have our x times negative 2. So our outside terms, so negative 2x. Next, we have our inside terms, 1 times 3x, so plus 3x. And finally, we have our last terms, 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. So that's that one distributed. And now I want to do this first part right here, so we can go plus. We have our 2 times 2x. I'm going to put this in brackets. 2 times 2x is 4x. And 2 times negative 1, negative 2. And that's still times 5x plus 2. And now let's FOIL these two. Let's look at doing our first terms, our outside terms, our inside terms, and our last terms. So I'm going to rewrite this guy down here. 3x squared, subtract. Oh, maybe I should combine these like terms while I'm at it. We have this 2x and the positive 3x, negative 2x and positive 3x leaves us with plus 1x. Subtract 2 plus, okay, here we go. We've got a 4x times a 5x is a 20x squared. Next, our outside terms are 4x times 2 is going to be plus 8x. Now our inside terms, negative 2 times 5, subtract 10x. And our last terms, negative 2 times positive 2 is going to be a negative 4. And I guess I could have combined our like terms later, but now let's do it all across. We have here 3x squared. We have 20x squared. Here we have a 1x, and we have an 8x and a negative 10x. And here we have a negative 2 and a negative 4. So let's combine all of our like terms. 3x squared plus 20x squared, 23. Oh, that's weird. 23x squared. Next, we have a positive 1 and a positive 8, so plus 9x, but then we're taking away 10, so negative 1x. And our last one, we have negative 2 plus a negative 4, negative 6. And there you go. Next one, these ones I think are simpler in some ways, but I just wanted to remind you how to do this or show you how to do this. Remember, this is what squared means. It means this thing times itself. So this is going to look like x plus 4 times x plus 4. And then we do our FOILing. The first ones, the outside ones. We do the inside ones and the last ones. So x times an x is an x squared. X times positive 4. Okay, I got cut off. An x times an x is an x squared, and x times 4 is plus 4x. Now our inside terms, 4 times x is another 4x, and 4 times 4 is 16. Now we combine our like terms, this plus 4, this plus 4, and we get x squared plus 8x plus 16. And our last one is just multiplying a monomial by a trinomial. We need to distribute this into each of our terms. So 2x times 4x squared. Remember, we multiply the numbers in the front. 2 times 4 is 8, and an x times an x squared is an x cubed. 2x times negative 8x is going to give us negative 16x squared. And finally, our 2x times 17 is going to give us a plus 34x. Pretty good. Thank you so much. I'll let you know what textbook questions I'd like you to do.